So I'm going to be talking about my projects that I did over break. So my primary concentration is visual studies, and one of the things that I talked about working on was going to be a charcoal drawing. This is a drawing that's a continuation of the grandmother's basement story that I was working on. And the story Grandma's Basement is about my grandmother and her time living in this basement at this house that she used to live at. But basically making this drawing, I just started with a line sketch in charcoal on paper, and it was a pretty big piece of paper, which is the same piece of paper that I've been using, 24 by 18 or something. I just basically used my imagination to create an image of what I could remember of what that hallway looked like. Basically just blocking in the really dark shadows. I'm kind of doing it in these streaky lines. I spent more time on these lines, trying to accentuate them than I had in the past. And this was partially, you'll see my portrait, I kind of learned from that. And I'm really trying to accentuate this perspective that's going on. It's just really, the hallway, probably in my mind, seemed a lot longer than it actually was. This is the sketch that I came up with that was strictly on paper. And then I went into Procreate after that to block in all the colors and refine the light and dark values. So this is the first iteration that I had. It's a little flat, like both color-wise and just value-wise. In the second iteration, make the colors a lot brighter. I really add some shit to that. And then I think I went into Photoshop after this and even more so accentuated the colors to a fault. I wasn't happy with this. And this is the final design that I ended up with. I kind of wanted this last shot to be the end of like this sequence of either like memories or kind of dreams almost. First I just really loosely drew it out on a piece of paper. I didn't get a time lapse of this, but this is the first thing that I drew out. And then I just went straight into Photoshop and tried to filter it to a point that I was happy with. I actually really liked one of them, that was this blue one that had light sort of shining on both of us. Putting them next to the other drawings, I realized that I probably needed a little bit more. I could still have more detail in the drawing and still have it be kind of a fading memory, but I think it would, in a way, it would have been more vivid than the other drawings, but more of a feeling, kind of a memory than the others, so it just needed less detail in it, but still more than I had originally. So I went full detail on the paper and just added these really like Picasso-esque elements to it, and then I realized like, no, this is not fitting in with the other drawings. So I thought maybe I could save this by going in Procreate and just totally changing what I was going to do, make it a full digital drawing. This wasn't really something that I knew I was going to include, but I just wanted to mess with it anyways to maybe help me with the final drawing. And I had some pretty good ones. Actually, yeah, I liked some of them a lot, but it was just too graphic of a drawing to really include. Instead, I went back into Procreate and messed with the original sketch that I had drawn on top of the Photoshop thing that I had liked after doing that, I ended up with a couple drawings that I liked a lot, and I just chose one of them and put some of the words, the last words, at the end, which is, if you read the story, you'll know what the words mean. So my story is up on my website if you want to read it. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is my colored pencil drawing that I said I was going to make. Every 2 years it seems like I make a self-portrait. The first one I made was in 2019, the second one was in 2022 actually, and then the last one was 2023, but almost 2 years apart. So I was like, I don't know, I should make one this year. Partially that was because I wanted to do a more realistic like drawing, because I'd never really done that. So I did this one, I took a photo for this one, this is the photo, and basically just gridded the photo. I chose colored pencil so I could get these really streaky, layered lines, so you could really see like the undertones in the skin. Starting off with this, I put a lot of yellow in it, made it really pretty desaturated. I did have kind of a goal in mind with this, which was to make it look kind of weathered, but I definitely went too far at the beginning, and it looks like 30. In addition to using colored pencil, I also used this compressed chalk, kind of made as the base layer for the drawing. After I rendered the hair and the sweatshirt, which I also did with like these streaky lines, trying to get all the detail, I did the background. I kind of blocked it out in Procreate first, trying to figure out like what color should I do for this. I was thinking either green or blue, and I ended up going with blue. And after I had decided that, I basically took these pastel pencils and went over the drawing with that. And I kind of messed up one area of the drawing, so I had to go back into Procreate and just sort of refine that area. And I ended up layering a couple more colors for the background in Procreate on top of that. And then I fixed this little splotch that I had accidentally made above the eye when I went and tried to fill in the black in the eye with Copic marker. Overall, I was pretty happy with the final. It took me 20 hours at least to make the whole thing, and here's a beside all of the portraits that I did so far. So the next thing that I said I was going to do is a light study. These are basically just sketches that I do in my sketchbook of the facial anatomy and the human form, as well as basic environments. I didn't do many of these over break, but I did do like one environment drawing, and I did do some figures too. But with the figures, it was more, I was trying to do more light stuff, but I'd realized that I was so behind in figure that I needed to just do the basic like 2 to 5 minute figure drawings too. Here are a few of like my old figure drawings from last year. There's a stiffness to every drawing, and that's, I guess, for gestural drawings, that's like the exact opposite that you want to do. So this break, I kind of focused on pushing the poses while also trying to get better at anatomy and shadow with anatomy. So here are a few of those drawings that I did. They're a lot better than last year was, and I had 2 semesters of classes for figure last year, and I got better in a week. So the next thing is cinematic photographs, and I didn't really take any cinematic photographs this week, but I did edit some photographs that I had already taken a year ago that I had never edited and kind of forgot about. So here are the next thing that I said I was going to make for Moving Image was a Green Dreamers animation. Green Dreamers is this story that I've been working on for a while with one of my friends from Ringling. It's like a pilot episode for an animation about these like teens that are just like degenerates, and they just mess around all the time. And then this psychic like allows them to go into people's dreams. But regardless of that, this is an environment study that I was working on, and I didn't have time to make an animation for it, but I still wanted to make it into like a better drawing than it was. This is the first iteration of that drawing. This is the one that I made. It's based off of this building in Burlington. After I made this initial sketch, Johnny went in and basically took my sketch, corrected the perspective to his liking, and added some elements that he thought should go in there. Like he made a better signage, and he kind of added some cool like world building elements like broken glass and the shut the fuck up on the thing. This was my iteration after that iteration, and I just basically fixed the trees and made the shadows better. And then after I made that drawing, I went and messed with the perspective a little bit to give it a kind of like warped, like more original look than what we had both been drawing. And I drew some of my characters in it and just did a shit ton of like shadow work and stuff. Here's like a time lapse of that or something. Yeah, and I had like a lot of Photoshop iterations of this too, because I wasn't really satisfied with like the colors and the clouds and like all this stuff that I was adding, so I kept finishing the drawing, editing in Photoshop, seeing if I liked the iteration that I made, and then just continuously editing. And yeah, this was the final version. And I decided to add a little bit of like a story sketch on top of this piece. So this is Steve interacting with Kilo in their separate apartments. But yeah, some of the characters that I drew. So in this window, we've got Psychic Grandma. She's the owner of the psychic business in this story. She's kind of based off my grandmother too, actually. We've got Courtney, also known as Mrs. Mulligan. She lives in the top floor of the apartment complex. She's very in tune with meditation. As you can see right here, she does some meditation, and she gives some pointers for the Green Dreamers. We've got Mr. Spaulding in this window. He's a divorced dad. Jim and Steve in these windows right here. Jim is kind of the main character who's gotten like kicked out of his house, and he's just crashing at Steve's. He lives in his car with like on a couch that he has like in the back of his truck. And yeah. Action. All right, now walk down to like one area and just stand there. All right, now walk down to another. All right, now walk down to another. Wait, fuck, I got the thing in the frame. All right, now walk down to another. Try that again. Go.
Now I see